Hello there, Ray here, and today I would like to talk about the most recent snapshot, which is 18W6A. Now, I have been playing Minecraft for around 9 years, so I have a lot of experience about Minecraft, and I played through every single version and pretty much every single snapshot that has come out as well. So I'm just going to go over what I think of all the different changes, as well as what I think this means to the technical vanilla survival players. So right off the bat, you see that I'm here in the nether dimension, and I am on top of the bedrock ceiling, and here we got a lava lake that has generated up in the bedrock ceiling, and I've seen a couple of these sitting around on top of it. They're kind of rare, but this is a just a normal lava lake that you normally see in the overworld. And just like an overworld where it plays stone around the outside, you see that here, and then there is the normal blocks around it that's bedrock, and this can go right down into the rest of the nether. So if you were just down here mining, you could just come up and break blocks, and there's no bedrock here, and you could easily just go right up into the top of the nether. Now, they're probably going to change this because this is probably unintended, but it looks like they actually applied the overworld generation to the nether dimension, and it's kind of interesting because this Y level is quite high for uh, lava lakes, but you can see that it appeared here. But if we go down into the normal nether, we can see ravines, quite a few ravines actually. So like here is a very strange looking ravine that is part of the world generation, and some of the nether looks more typical. Like this part here looks quite typical of what you would expect from the nether, quite open. Here's your fortress just coming through. If I go back into a spot that's more full of blocks, you can see that we got the typical caves that you see in the nether, but there are these ravines that are quite strange. So I just head off a little ways and I found some more of these ravines. You can see here some lava updating as well as some gravel. This looks just like your typical ravine in overworld. It's quite large though. I don't think they come this big in overworld. But yeah, unless there's two ravines here. But the lava's updating, it's coming down, it's flowing down. We got lava flowing down like you would see in the overworld. And this ravine is so low that you even got the magma blocks generating in the side. Quite interesting. If you come through here, here's another ravine. Here's some floating gravel that was generated because the ravine cut through. All this gravel is just floating here. So it's quite interesting that they would apply this to the nether dimension. I'm sure they're trying out different things to make the nether look more interesting. Here's a ravine that's kind of completely isolated. I don't really care for the ravines. I think there is something that could be a little better than these ravines because like this one, some of these ravines are completely isolated so that you can never actually get to them, and you really wouldn't gain anything by accessing these ravines anyways. So here I found some more of these lava pools that generated in the nether. This is what you would typically see like an overworld with the stone around it, trying to protect it as the stone above it as well, trying to isolate it so that stuff doesn't fall into it. And you can see how it intrudes into the rest of the nether. Here's a couple more. There's a pocket over here. There's a pocket over here, as well as, yeah, there's quite a few pockets over everywhere all around here. So I wasn't able to find one that's actually protruding down underneath of the world, but I would think it could because I found this one here, which is really close to being protruding through the bedrock. If you do happen to find one, send me a screenshot as well as the coordinates and the seed. So I found another lava lake that's quite low. This one's even lower yet. So if I press F3, you see I'm looking at level 1. And if I remove these blocks here, you see it broke all this bedrock, and that means there's only one level of bedrock down into the bottom of the world. So one thing you'll notice is with the 1.13, the liquids that are anywhere in the world that generate will start flowing as soon as the world generates and not already be completed when you normally get there. So normally you would get here and all the lava would just be already on the ground, but here you can see it is just updating when the player has generated the world. This is most likely going to make it pretty laggy when you travel through the nether, because every time you start loading new chunks, all these lava streams are going to start updating and start flowing downwards. So I just killed myself. I'm back here in the overworld, and first thing I noticed is that normally I would spawn over there because this is a copy of the same seed as we use on the ProtoTech server, and that is where we would spawn. That's our world spawn point, but you can see I got placed over here, so I just want to double check and see where they have placed the world spawn point. It looks like it's right over here somewhere. Oh yeah, it's right in here. So if you use this compass, you can just see that the center is right here somewhere. And that means they changed the generation enough so that world spawn points of seeds have been changed. So you might have to use your seed finder to see exactly where your spawn chunks will be, because they'll be offset by a little bit now. So if we go directly underneath of our original spawn point, you'll see that there is a pretty extensive mine shaft directly underneath of this kind of like hill that's underneath the water. And yeah, it's fitting here really nicely. And I know for sure that there is no mineshaft on our seed that's directly underneath the spawn. So they must have moved the way that mine shafts generated in the game a bit, so they are no longer where you would predict them to be in previous versions. So they also added these stumps into the game, which are just some logs which are sticking up without any tree branches. As you notice, they go down to the ground about 2 meters, where your typical tree don't go down into the ground at all, which is kind of interesting. Now with these stumps, they're kind of rare. You only see like one there, one there, one there, but they do really make it look quite a bit nicer. But now that I kind of see these stumps, how they have their bare tops sticking up to the sky, it kind of makes me think that these trees that are normally sitting here should not have their bare tree stumps like sticking up towards the sky because like just looking over top of this, I could easily see all the tops with the leaves being fancy. It almost feels like they should come in and put in the new tree blocks like these type here. So if I just had the oak one, put it there. What if I put it down in here? Like that, I think that would look a lot better instead of having those open sides pointing straight up. So here you can see one of the stumps that generated on the side of a hill, and you can see it also generate these leaves. It's pretty much trying to generate a tree that's upside down, and you can see there's 3 meters worth of logs here. There's another one just around this corner here, 3 logs, and it generates this one leaf with it. So that's quite strange. They'll probably fix that. I'm seeing quite a few of these what I call twin trees. Here's two right here. They're growing side by side. I see another one right here, the diagonal. Now, I don't really remember seeing any of these before. Tell me if you ever seen these before or if this is something new. I just seen on Reddit that someone says that the normal oak trees have a chance of growing upright or upside down. So I just have a macro that does both right click really fast so I can bone mill trees really quickly and just keep moving on. And yeah, you can see that there is definitely some trees that are growing upside down instead of growing upright. Just like the trunks, you see they go down about 3 meters. So that's kind of crazy. I guess you could use that to break blocks that are underneath the tree. And I also noticed that these trees don't make giant trees. So of all the trees that grown, I didn't have a single giant tree grow, which is quite strange. So I'm guessing they removed the ability to get the large oak trees. I noticed that you can also be able to click on blocks that are around you. So currently there is a leaf block directly inside my head, and I am still able to like go over here and break that leaf block there. And there is still a leaf block inside my head. I'm even able to go over here and break this log right here. And there is actually still a leaf block in my head. And that's kind of crazy. I can even break this like grass block there. Pretty much this opens up the door to a lot of different types of AFK farms because you're able to place down and break stuff that is not necessarily directly in your line of sight. So you got to make a tree farm where you're inside of the dirt block and you're able to plant a sapling on top of the dirt block. So yeah, that means you can make some pretty compact tree farms. So I just discovered a client-side glitch. So if I come in here and plant a birch sapling inside of a spruce sapling, that is possible. But some of these leaves here are actually not updating properly. So if I right-click on them, they will switch. So like this is a spruce leaf. Even if I look at F3, it says it's a spruce leaf. It's checking for decay faults, and it says it is decayable true. If I click on it, and right-click on it, you can see it switches over to a birch leaf. And this is actually just client side. So if I just log out and log back in, you see that all the leaves converted over to birch now. So that is quite strange. So it appears that the villages generate in the same locations as prior, except they generate a little bit differently. So this one here doesn't have blacksmith, where I just checked the 1.12 one, and that one does. But here you can clearly see the water has overtaken part of the structure. Normally the structures will override the water placement, but this water here came in and destroyed part of this farmland here, and even destroyed part of this walkway, and for some reason placed a wooden block over here. I don't know why that was placed there. So here's some kind of ugly terrain you can see that's with 1.13. See these underwater water pools? I think they're supposed to be underground water pools, but they just poke through the surface, and that's why they kind of look odd. Your typical water pool would look like this one over here, but you definitely notice how these edges here don't have grass, and this is probably a bug because typically there would be grass if it's facing the sky. All this should be grass as well as this over here. All these edges should be grass. This here is either like a cave that tried to generate, or normally you see this if there's like a structure that tried to generate here and then it failed. It seems that the stronghold locations are a bit messed up because it says the stronghold should be right around here, and even the Eye of Ender says it should be around here, but yeah, there's no stronghold here. And if I go to where the strongholds are typically, like on 1.12 world, there's also no strongholds. So here you can clearly see a chunk that hasn't been populated correctly. It should be snow here. Here's the tree that even spawned, and the tree was when this chunk over here was populated, it put the tree here, but this chunk over here never got populated, so the rest of the tree never got put in. And if we just look at these leaves, let's see what it says. It says check for decay, false, decayable, true. So it's not even checking if these leaves can decay, so they're just sitting there, which is kind of strange. But yeah, this chunk here didn't get populated. It's supposed to get snow in it as well as like leaves, or I mean, as grass in it. So we press F3 and G, we can see that it's clearly inside one chunk. Here you can see that these 2/4 of the chunk never got populated. And like over here, here's 1/4 of the chunk never got populated, another quarter never got populated. That's quite strange. So you can see I'm actually having quite a bit of problems with some chunks not populating. You can see some odd things happening with the world generation, such as this ravine here. It abruptly stops right up against this chunk border here. You can see the water even stops. So if I press F3 and G, it shows the chunk border there is clearly stopped. So yeah, so I'm here in a jungle biome, but if you look underneath, holy moly, look at all these vines. There's definitely something going on with these vines generating underneath of the world. I also do see some of the stumps in the, here they are. Yeah, so there is some stumps also in the jungle biome. But man, I don't get what's going on with these vines. So one thing I noticed right away is these jungles are extremely thick. I mean, you can see how thick this jungle is. So I'm going to switch over to 1.12 and we'll compare them. So I'll hop back into 1.12 and you can see this jungle looks quite a bit different. That 1.13 jungle is extremely dense compared to this one. So here's a pretty good example of the stump and the tree that it produces underneath. So if you look underneath of the ground, yeah, there's a tree there, there's a bunch of upside down trees. So I was able to find these stumps in the biomes of forest, plains, jungle, root forest, and even extreme hills. Here you can see another chunk that never got populated quite correctly. You can see the tree out here is only partly there, and down here it looks a little bit strange. This tree happened to get populated. Also, one thing you just might notice in general in these forests, all the tall ferns are actually missing the top half of them. So yeah, it's probably just a bug. So I just seen this on Reddit, where if you grow a 2x2 spruce tree, it will also generate pods all around it. So let's try it out. Let's also put in some dirt here as well as some coarse dirt there. And then we'll put in our 2x2 spruce tree here, and hopefully it will turn some of the stuff over into pods. So let's bone mill it to speed it up a bit. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Converted the dirt as well as the coarse dirt as well as the grass blocks over into podzol. This means that podzol is now a renewable resource, and I think it'd be really cool. You can try to make a podzol farm that converts dirt over into podzol. So that's cool. Definitely going to be trying that in the future. So with the end dimension, they also changed the name of the biome. So like this one, the center here, which called the main end island, they're calling the biome the end. And if we TP ourselves out 1,000 blocks, like this island here, which we normally call the outer end islands, they individually name these with different biomes. So if we stand on top of this one, kind of messed up, but this one is called a medium island. And you can see back here, I was getting barren island. So yeah, I guess it's without any coarse fruit maybe. And if we head off into the kind of the void between the big islands, they're calling this the floating islands. Kind of makes sense because there is some floating islands out here. There's also another one, the large one. There it is, high islands. This is the high island, the really tall ones. So it's kind of interesting that they're adding new biomes to the end dimension, and hopefully they'll also provide different types of resources in these biomes. You can also see the chorus fruits are pretty messed up in this version. Um, don't expect them to be like that in the full release. But yeah, it's kind of cool that with the different biomes in the end dimensions, maybe they'll have special ores in certain types of biomes, and then there's actually a good reason to come out here and search these type of biomes looking for certain things. So I searched around for some end cities, and there don't appear to be any end cities in this version, so they're probably still working on those, trying to get those to work with the new generation. I did crash game quite a few times just trying to record this, so there is some finickiness about the snapshot. I also noticed that when you tab switch with the new 1.13 client, it looks quite a bit different. Instead of having like a black screen, it has like a gray screen in your alt tab menu, which is just something I noticed. Also, I noticed there's probably a bug with the look at function. So if I'm looking at this block here and I go into spectator mode and I look up, it currently says I'm not looking at any blocks. Yeah, it's kind of strange because my head's like inside the block, but if I look up, it says I'm not looking at any blocks. If I go down to a little bit lower, it says I'm looking at, now let's say I'm looking at block level 58, and here I'm looking at 56, and now I'm looking at 57, and I'm in spectator mode, so I shouldn't be able to see anything except for the one block that's inside me, so there's probably something a little bit messed up with that they'll have to fix. There's also a kind of a pretty annoying bug, which is if you start typing stuff in your chat, then you hit Alt-Tab, and then you come back to the window, it will erase everything that you typed. It said with this new snapshot that the generation would allow you to generate the world a little bit quicker, but it seemed like it was a little bit slower for me, especially with the liquids updating. So I tried to cover all the main things that occurred in the snapshot as well as anything I just seen while flying around in the world generation or anything I came across. Now there is some other minor things that also occurred in the snapshot, but on Reddit, Redstone Helper does a really good job at acquiring all the different things that people find about the snapshot and puts it into one nice little list, which I will link down in the description. So check out that list if you want to see all the little minor things that also was changed in the snapshots. If you think there's something that I should have covered or you think I made a mistake about something, please tell me down in the comments. But if you found this interesting, show me a like. If you'd like to see more snapshot reviews like this, subscribe and don't forget to comment. Bye-bye!